companions, he went on to mention that the Prophet ﷺ gave us an admonition. He advised us, but this advice caused the hearts to tremble. And not only did it cause the heart to tremble, it caused the eyes to become teary. فَقُلْنَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ كَأَنَّهَا مَوْعِدَةٌ مُوَدَّعٍ. We said, O Messenger of Allah, this is as if it's the last admonition that you're going to give us. فَأَوْصِينَا. So please give us some type of advice. The Prophet ﷺ, he went on to mention, أُوصِيكُم بِتَقْوَى اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. I advise you with the fear of Allah, but not only the fear of Allah, to be conscious of your Lord. To not only be conscious of Him, but love Him, respect the parameters that He has set in place. Then the Prophet ﷺ went on after that, and he said, I also advise you with sami' wa ta'a, to hear and obey. وَأَن تَعَمَّرَ عَلَيْكُمْ عَبْدٍ, even if a slave was to be in charge of you. Not only that, the Prophet ﷺ continued with the advice, and he said that وَإِنَّهُ مَنْ يَعِيشْ مِنْكُمْ بَعْدِي فَسِيَرَى اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. And that whoever from amongst you lives after me will see much different. فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِسُنَّتِي وَسُنَّةِ الخُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ الْمَهْدِيِّينَ عَضُّوا عَلَيْهَا بِالنَّوَاجِذِ. The Prophet ﷺ went on to mention that, so therefore upon you is my sunnah, and the sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa. Hold on to it with your molar teeth. وَإِيَّاكُمْ مُحْدَثَاتِ الْأُمُورِ فَإِنَّ كُلَّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ. The Prophet ﷺ went on to mention, and beware of newly invented matters, for every newly invented matter is what? An innovation, and it's astray. Having said this, we want to start off a few things before we actually get into the nas, the actual text of what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. That which we benefit from the apparent, the zahir of the hadith, that which is apparent from the hadith, is that people go into two categories. The hadith is talking about mustami'een, those who are listening to a khutbah or an admonition, right? And then you have the speaker himself. As for those who are listening to the khutbah, you find that the mannerisms of the companions, they will pay close attention to what the Prophet ﷺ was saying. This is one of the reasons why they were affected. Why? Because they were paying close attention. Therefore, if a person is in the muhadara, he's in a lesson, or she's in a lesson, or even the khutbah, if you're attending the khutbah, then you should pay what? Close attention to the speaker, to listen to what he has to say. لَعَلَّهُ يَهْدِيكَ, because perhaps it may guide you. So this is from the mannerism of those who actually attend any type of gathering of knowledge, that they pay close attention to the speaker. Why? Because also that may lead to a person being affected of what the person has to say. We find that the companions he mentioned, وَجِلَتْ مِنْهَا الْقُلُوبِ وَذَرَفَتْ مِنْهَا أَيُونَ, that our hearts trembled and the eyes became teary. These two characteristics are something that is praiseworthy even with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want those who have a Quran to go to Surah Anfal, verse number 2. Anfal, verse number 2. So it's chapter 8, verse number 2. Dharif, you have it? When you get it, verse number 8. No, the surah. Chapter 8, verse number 2. When you have it, who's going to read it, inshallah? You read it? Play it.
Arabic or just
the English.
Okay. It said, for believers are those who, when Allah is mentioned, feel a tremor in their hearts.
Alright, stop. Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says here, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُم. That indeed the believers are those when the verses of Allah, or rather when Allah is mentioned, their heart does what? It's affected. للأسف شديد, unfortunately, no one's exempt from myself included. Unfortunately, we have people, what happens is, they are more affected by nasheed, when they listen to these Islamic, what's the word I'm looking for? Songs. These nasheed. Alright, and they listen to it, and they get all emotional, and they start crying and things like that. But then if you were to play the Quran for them, they don't feel anything. If this is the case, know for sure that you have what? There's something wrong. that you are more moved by the kalam of nas, you are more moved by the kalam of people, but the words of your Lord doesn't affect you at all. So there's something wrong. Alright? So therefore, one of the characteristics Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, either dhukr Allah wajilat qulubuhum, that when Allah is mentioned, their hearts, what? They tremble. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He also says in Surah Hadeeth, I believe it's 56 or 57, Hadeeth.
No, that's actually, you're right.
Alright. Surah Hadeeth, verse number 16. Surah Hadeeth, verse number 16. You got it? طيب. تفضل. Hadeeth. Al-Hadeeth. I believe 56. 57? طيب. معلش. It's 57. No, ayat is 16. Mm-hmm.
Has not the time arrived for the believers that their hearts in all humility should engage in the remembrance of Allah?
Stop. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Has not the time come for those who claim that they believe, who say that they believe, for what? For their heart to be what? Affected by Allah's reminder. There's an interesting story behind this ayah. Right? Not necessarily the reason why it was revealed, but it's an interesting story that comes behind this ayah. There was a particular man by the name of Fudayl bin Iyad. Fudayl bin Iyad, he was known at that particular time, right, before he became this huge scholar of Islam. He was known to be basically a highway robber, stick-up kid. For lack of better words, he was the man. Alright? So what happens here is that Fudayl, he was so known. Now obviously they don't have no technology back then. So if people in other villages heard about you, you had to be what? You had to be the man. You had to be pretty bad. So Fudayl bin Iyad, basically everyone heard about Fudayl. So much so they used to say, let's not travel at night because Fudayl is going to be in the highway. He's going to stick us up. That's how bad and ruthless he was. So on one occasion, Fudayl bin Iyad, he was in love with a woman. So he was going to a particular house basically to go to sleep with her. While he was climbing this particular place, right, to meet this particular lady, he heard someone reading the Quran. And they read this verse. أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Has not the time come for those who claim that they believe for their heart to be affected by his reminder? When Fudayl heard this, قال بلى حان الوقت. He said, for sure the time has come. So he forgot about this particular girl he was going to go meet. And he just climbed down. Just left her hanging, for lack of better words, right? So he climbed down, and then he left. And he just out of fear and out of just being overtaken by that ayah, he just left. And he just left to go out, and he stayed in an abandoned house. When he stayed inside of an abandoned house, there were people that were traveling by at night. And they said, what? They said, wait a minute. Let's not go any further. Why? Fudayl going to stick us up. So Fudayl, when he heard this, Becca, he started to cry even more. And he said, these people who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are afraid to continue because of me. And I'm here in this place crying out of fear of Allah. أَلَمْ يَأْنِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Has not the time come for those who claim that they believe to be affected by his reminder? So therefore we say all this to say, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the companions asked him to give him advice, when he said, "Usikum bitaqwallah azza wa jalla," I advise you with the fear of Allah, not only the fear, the love, and to be conscious of your Creator, to love and respect Him. This advice, as the Prophet said, he was given small words that had a lot of meaning. When someone says the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it has a tremendous meaning. We're actually going to go over that. But once we started off with the beginning of the narration where the companion said, our hearts trembled and our eyes, it became watery. The companions, and we want to mention this, the companions, they were known to be people that when they cried, as some of the companions, or some of the Salaf they mentioned in the past, these companions, they cried so much, some of them had permanent scars in their faces from tears. Crying and crying and crying out of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's mentioned Aisha radiallahu anha that when she would cry, her niqab would become soaking wet, crying out of the fear of Allah. But, myself included, how many of us have actually, and you have to answer the question, have actually sat and just let one tear drop out of the fear of Allah? Your whole life as being a Muslim. Think about the sins you have committed, myself included. When's the last time you actually cried? Not because someone hurt you, or you got divorced, or something like that, but you actually cried because you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you keep falling short. You think about all these different things. Right? And again, I'm included in this as well. No one is exempt from it. None of us perfect. But we have to have that in the back of our minds, right? And that real men cry. Some of us have this complex as men, and I'm a man too, that men don't cry. Are you more courageous than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? فَقَدْ بَكَى, and he cried. Are you more courageous than Abu Bakr as-Siddiq? And he cried. Umar bin Khattab. And we know Shaitan across the street when he saw Umar, but Umar cried. Right? So these men, they actually cried out of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you want to keep that in the back of our minds. Right? Having said this, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he goes on to say, "Usikum bi taqwallah azza wa jal." I advise you with the taqwa of Allah. A person who has taqwa, we want to mention this, it leads to 5 things. A person has taqwa, it leads to 5 things. They have 3 rewards in this dunya, and they have 2 rewards in the hereafter. Talking about the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you have a Quran or your smartphone, please go to Surah Al-Talaq 65, verse number 2. 65, verse number 2.
Thus, when they fulfill their term appointed, either take them back on equitable terms or part with them on equitable terms. And take for witnesses 2 persons from among you, and do with justice, and establish their evidence before Allah. Such is the admonition given to him who believes in Allah in the last day. And for those who fear Allah.
Alright, طيب, this is the part. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. That whoever fears Allah, Allah gives him what? Gives him a way out. Gives him a solution. So this is one of the rewards in the dunya. That if a person has a fear of Allah, and the Prophet said, "Usikum bi taqwallah," whoever has the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the rewards it leads to in this dunya is what? Allah gives him what? Gives you relief, gives you a way out. The next verse is mentioned, وَيَرْزَقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. And Allah will give him reward, basically bless him and increase him and provide for him from ways he can't even imagine. So once again, having fear of Allah, مَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزَقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. So from the fear of Allah alone, majority of taqwa, a person has 2 rewards so far. Allah is going to give him a way out, and Allah is going to do what? Allah is going to provide for him. The third reward that a person gets in this dunya is in the 4th verse of the same surah. وَمَن يَتَقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ يُسْرًا. That Allah will make his affairs easy for him. So far, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَمَن يَتَقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ يُسْرًا. That whoever fears Allah, Allah will make his affairs easy for him. So we had the first one, Allah is going to give him a way out. Allah is going to do what? Provide for him from places he can't even imagine. And then what? Allah is always going to make his affairs easy for him. If he has what? The taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The 2 things that we said he gets 5 rewards. The 2 things that the person will get in the hereafter. Alright? You have at the same ayah at the end. Not the same ayah, the ayah after that. I think it's 65:6. Allah Azza wa Jalla, he mentions, وَمَن يَتَقِ اللَّهِ يُكَفِّرْ عَنْهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِ. That whoever fears Allah, Allah will do what? Forgive his sins. That's what? In the hereafter. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions, and he will give him what? A magnificent reward. All this is contingent upon the person doing what? Fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have it? I believe it's 65:6 or 65:5? Read 65:6.
Back to them, the divorce from the residence where you reside according to your means.
No, go back.
5 is, this is the command of Allah
There you are.
that He has sent down to you, and whoever fears Allah,
Whoever fears Allah, 65:5.
He will write off his evil deeds and will give him a huge reward.
Allah will forgive him his evil deeds and what? Give him a huge reward. This is a person, what? Majority taqwa, a person having taqwa of Allah. He said there's 5 rewards. 3 in this dunya and 2 where? So what are the 3 in the dunya? If a person has a taqwa of Allah, the first one is what?
Gives you a way out.
Gives you a way out.
Provides for you from.
Provides you in a place you can't even imagine.
And brings ease to your affairs.
Bring ease to your affairs. Now what's the 2 and a half after?
Writes off your evil deeds.
Writes your evil deeds. And give you a what? A huge
Reward.
A huge reward. This is only, it's all contingent upon the person having what? Taqwa. So when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he said, "Usikum bi taqwa azza wa jalla," I advise you of what? The taqwa of Allah. It meant something, right? Now after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went on to mention, he said, "Was-sam'i wat-ta'a," and to hear and obey. This part, as the scholars of Islam mentioned, if a person implements this, either tabaqa hadha shakhs, if a person implements this in their life, yastanib fitna, he stays away from fitna. Why is it that? I want to spend too much time on it because it enters a sensitive area. But you have a lot of people who they overthrow these rulers and they do different things. They end up what? Corruption, worse. Things worse happen to them. Right? Now, it doesn't mean that a person who's oppressed just allows himself to be oppressed. No, I'm not saying that. But at the end, notice the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, "Wan ta'amra alaykum al-abd." Even if a slave was to be in charge of your affairs, what? Hear and obey. Right? Hear and obey. Now, also, this doesn't mean that a person, I'm going to get to that. This doesn't mean a person does what? That he just obeys in everything that is ma'asi and so on and so forth, and sin and transgression. No. Right? But if a person who's in charge of him orders them to do something, right? Madam al-halal, and so long as it's halal, then a person is allowed to do so. But if a person orders them to go against the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what? La, he doesn't obey them. Play it. Now, once again, I don't spend too much time on it because it enters into a lot of different things. I don't want to get into politics and things like that. Play it. So after this, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, وَإِنَّهُ مَن يَعِيشْ مِنْكُمْ بَعْدِي فَسِيرَ اخْتِلَافٍ كَثِيرًا. That whoever lives after me will see what? A lot of different. This is an affirmation that what? After the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will see a lot of people that will do things that is in what? Opposition to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You see a lot of people, regardless of who they are. I'll give you an example. This is a story from one of the companions, not one of the companions, one of the Salaf, one of the students of the companions. And basically he came into the masjid to pray. He prayed Fajr, and after he prayed Fajr, he continued to pray 2 rak'ah. 2 rak'ah, 2 rak'ah, 2 rak'ah, 2 rak'ah. So one of the scholars at the time, he said, Shahad, like, what are you doing? And we know there's no salah after Fajr, immediately after Fajr. So the man said, are you telling me Allah is going to punish me for praying? The man said, no, but he's going to punish you because you're doing what? You're going against the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These things, they start off small, but you'll find that a lot of people do a lot of different things that's in opposition to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this statement of the Prophet is an affirmation that what people will do certain things that is totally in opposition to Islam. All right. So therefore, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went on to mention after that, فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِسُنَّتِي وَسُنَّةِ الْخُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ مَهْدِيِّينَ. Therefore, because you see all is different, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave us a yardstick, and that yardstick is what? To obey my sunnah. Upon you is my sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa. Whatever they rule in, the rightly guided khulafa, that is also considered what? As a part of my sunnah. And we take it. I'll give you an example. During the time of Umar ibn Khattab, and we're going to end probably like another 5 minutes, because we want to give the people time enough to make dua and read more Quran before Salat al-Maghrib, inshallah. But during the time of Umar ibn Khattab, what happened was, when Umar was the leader, he did a few things that was slightly different, right? And what I mean by that, for an example, now going back, keep this in the back of your head. The Prophet said, "Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnati khulafa." Upon you is my sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa, right? So during the time of Umar al-Khattab, a lot of people, like divorce was like muntashar. People were divorcing people like left and right. I mean, just brother, you divorce, sister, you divorce, sister, you, brother, you, so on and so forth. Where even back in the style of Arabic, some people were divorcing people so much where they basically mentioned 3 divorces in one. An example, right? We know that if a person divorces his wife 3 times, right? Basically, it's talaq al-ba'in. It's the major divorce, and there's no going back until she what? Until she remarries someone else. And then, if that marriage doesn't work out, then she can go back. What happened was some people at the time, they were just playing around, like, for an example, sister, I divorce you as many times as stars in the sky, you gone. Right? And they would just mention these things so much and so much and so much. It was basically causing oppression to some of the women. So when Umar al-Khattab, what he did, he started to count these particular statements as 3 divorces, instead of saying it's just 1. All right, so let me back up. A man says to his wife, you divorce. That will start the process of her iddah, if he does it at the right time. If she finishes her iddah, khalas. La bud min aqd jadid wa mahar jadid. He has to give a new aqd and a new diary. Right? And we know the rules. I'm not trying to make it a marriage class, but the point is that some people, instead of just divorcing one time, they would start to say to their wives during the time of Umar, they would say, sister, you divorce, you divorce, you divorce, you divorce, you divorce, you divorce, you divorce. Like how some brothers do today. So what happened was, Umar al-Khattab, he started to do something to make the people stop, to bring to their attention, listen, you just can't be saying it like that. So during the time of the Prophet, I said, Abu Bakr, the brothers, people who said you divorce, you divorce, you divorce, it counted as 1 divorce. But Umar al-Khattab, to get the people to stop doing it, he said, no, it's not going to count as 1 divorce no more. We're going to count as how many?
3.
Which means she has to do what? So when Umar made that ruling, brothers was like, oh, we're going to think twice about this thing.
Yeah.
This is also counted. Why? Because the Prophet said, alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnati what? Khulafa. Upon you is my sunnah and sunnah rightly got it, what? Khulafa. And obviously Umar is referring to rightly got it, khulafa. That's one example. Another example is that, and it's probably a little bit easier to understand, the people for drinking khamr, what is the punishment for drinking alcohol? 40 what?
40 days on acid.
Right? But also the actual head. How many lashes? Right? 40. Ouch, brother, 100? Right? 40. So what happened was, during the time of Umar al-Khattab, some people felt, I could take 40. So Umar raised it up to what? 80. When he did that, people said, okay, never mind. So what happens what? This also counts what as a part of the sunnah, because the Prophet mentioned what? Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnati khulafa. So we're highlighting this to show that the companions also are hujjah. They are a proof. Right? And the Prophet gave them that concession, these 40 rightly guided men. Now who are the 4 rightly guided khulafa? Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali radiallahu anhu. Alright? After the Prophet mentioned, Agdu alayha bin nawajid. Bite hold to it with your molar teeth. Not your front teeth, the back, to bite onto it. And the reason why we understand that is because don't lose grip of it. Notice that the Prophet said what in the beginning? That you're going to see a lot of different after my death. People are going to be doing this. People are going to say this is a part of Islam, it's not a part of Islam. And don't be fooled. Some of these people got what? Big beards. The nicest hijab. Brother speaks the best in the look. He speaks the best Arabic. But confusing the people. When you know something is from the deen, from the sunnah, don't be fooled, hold on to it. As the Prophet mentioned, Abdu alayha bin nawajid. Bite onto it and hold it. Don't let no one confuse you about your religion. Alright? So we have that, and then the Prophet ended in probably in 2 minutes for the sake of we want to get the time people to make dua. وَإِيَّاكُمْ وَمُحْدَثَاتِ الْأُمُورِ فَإِنَّ كُلَّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ. The Prophet ﷺ said, and beware of newly invented matters. For every newly invented matter is what? A misguidance, and it's astray. There's no such thing in the deen as a bid'ah hasana. There's no such thing as a good innovation. All of his dalal, all of his misguidance. If the Prophet ﷺ did not do it, then what? Then don't do it. If the companions did not do it, I'm going to give you this principle. A person who does something inside of the deen, he feels that this is better. As if he is saying that Muhammad ﷺ khana risala. As if Muhammad ﷺ has failed in his message. As if you have this better understanding what Islam is not. And as if he's saying Allah has lied. Well, Allah has mentioned, on this day I have what? Completed your faith for you. How can someone come today and say, no, this is better? Regardless of how his beard is, regardless of whether he's Arab, black, white, I really don't care. The point is, if the Prophet ﷺ did not do it, inshallah ta'ala, we're not going to do it. And we have to have that understanding, inshallah ta'ala. Alright? Also, you have to look at it this way. People who do certain things that are part of the deen, do you love the Prophet ﷺ more than the companions did? What prevented them from doing what you're doing? They looked for every reason to be close to Muhammad ﷺ. So how can a person now come today and say, no, we have to go to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ to seek shafa'ah, to seek intercession, or to do this, or to do this, or whatever the case may be? Or do you love the Prophet ﷺ more than his wife loved him? They didn't do that. Do you love the Prophet ﷺ more than Abu Bakr Siddiq? He didn't do that. You see the point? So therefore, we have to put ourselves in check. That if we want our actions to be accepted, it has to be ikhlas, it has to be muwafaqah to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The person has to be sincere, and it has to be also in accordance with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One cannot survive without the other. If a person does an action according to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he's not sincere, it's rejected. If a person does something that is sincere but it's not according to the sunnah, then it's rejected. And we end with that, inshallah ta'ala. If there's any questions, we'll take them down, inshallah. طيب. سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفر الله وأتوب إليه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Please take this time, inshallah, to make dua and possibly read Quran until Maghrib, inshallah. Astaghfirullah. You misunderstood the hadith if that's the case.
That's good advice, though.
So, inshallah.